trying to get for sale by owners, which I like to call for sale not on market, FSNOs instead of FSBOs, getting them to kind of realize that, hey, look, we're here to get you the best net at closing. We're not all about taking your money. It's about putting more of it in your pocket at closing. And that's what we're able to do compared to someone that's just trying to sell on their own.
Welcome back to the Better Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Lavik, and I'm talking about how to improve your real estate business. Yay, that's what I'm all about, and that's what hopefully you're all about if you're listening to this and tuning in, because that's what we're going to be talking about. And that's what my guest today, Lance Nowak, he's also in Wisconsin in the Milwaukee market. I'm over in the Madison market, but I'm excited to hear more about his background because I think it's a little more of a technical background, right? He comes from an IT background and got launched into the real estate world. So, for those of you listening, maybe you had a more technical background, or if you're thinking about getting into real estate, wondering if this could be the career path for you, certainly according to Lance, you can definitely make a go at it. He's been at it for over 20 years now. And yeah, so I'm excited to hear more about our conversation. So again, you're listening to the Better Agent Podcast. So Lance, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just share a little bit more about yourself and your background with our listeners, and then we'll kind of kick things off from there.
Yeah, I've been in the real estate industry for 23 years now. Started with Shorewest in early 2005, one of those breakfast seminars that a lot of agents went to. I always wanted to join the biggest company in the area, starting out, a whole different field. I really needed that umbrella for the first couple of years to kind of get my business moving. So I think it was the right choice. They do have some incredible training over there that I was able to utilize and use that in my brokerage as well. I've always wanted to get my broker's license, but I think you really got to put some time in the trenches, so to speak, work with clients. So after 7 years, I decided it was time to get the broker's license and open up my own company.
7 years, you opened up your own company. I mean, I think that's certainly a good career path. I mean, I think it's one that, resonates with me as well. I mean, I got my start with a local independent brokerage, but one of the largest in the Madison area at that time. I think the other thing I heard too is, right, you wanted a bigger company. You needed that brand name, right? You're coming in as a brand new agent. Like if you're, totally independent, who are you, right? Like, why would I go with you? Let's go with a more established kind of brand or company that's already been around, right? So I think getting into some type of network, doesn't necessarily need to be the biggest in the area, but one of the bigger ones. I think any of the larger brokerages, they all offer training, they all offer support, they all offer tools to help you succeed as an agent. And that definitely makes sense. So, I mean, I've been at, similar, like I said, independent, but then I was also at Keller Williams for 9 years. And now and that was where I had a similar path, but slightly different. I did get my broker's license in 2012, but I did not start my own independent company. I chose to keep sort of building our own team, but also within the Keller Williams model and their system. And now our team is still in existence, right? And that's pretty much what I run, but we're also now a part of the EXP ecosystem and platform. So, there's lots of different ways to do it, which I love, but I think in some ways, I think if you're out there and you're achieving at a certain level of success, there's some people just have this innate drive and desire to kind of build more of their own brand or their own thing and their own identity. And it sounds like, and that was what it was for me as well. And, maybe your story was similar, but I don't know. What would you say about that?
Yeah, same thing. I wanted to create my own identity. I didn't want to be known as the Shorewest guy. And I also did work for Remax for about a year too. So that's, America's largest company. So really my goal was, when I opened up my own company, was to have that resume behind, because, the potential clients could be a little bit weary. Who's this guy? He's just starting out. But having the background of Shorewest and Remax, I think gave people a little bit more of a comfort level. And I think that really helped open up a lot more doors and helped my company now, Victory Realty Elite, kind of get to where it's at.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think when you're new too, I think if you haven't done a lot of transactions, that's where you gain experience and that's
Right.
where you gain confidence. At least it was for me. I mean, the more I didn't get a lot of, I didn't have a lot of transactions, so I needed that larger brokerage, I think anyway, to kind of
Yeah.
get some of that experience and background, right? Like, so if you're out there, maybe you haven't done a lot of transactions and you're listening to this, right? Like maybe partner with another mentor or team or
Yeah.
somebody at your brokerage or even a larger brokerage, whatever it might be, to find that person that you can partner with. Because ultimately, as soon as you do that, their sales sort of become your sales and their background becomes your background. And there's sort of a merging, I think, of those two things. And so it makes it a little easier, I would think, starting out on your own type of venture, right? Like if you have a track record and a background
Yeah.
already established, like
Yeah.
that kind of can stand on its own, whether you're totally independent or even an independent team within a larger brokerage entity like we are. I think, very much our track record and our reviews and online and presence and all that kind of stuff, I think kind of speaks on its own, regardless of the brokerage. At the end of the day, a client that hires you, a buyer or seller, right? They're choosing you and
Yeah.
they just want to know that they're making the right choice and that you've got the know-how to make it happen. So,
Yeah. Yep.
so yeah.
Building rapport,
What do you think?
right?
So what's working for you? What do you think, what's the know-how that you're bringing after 23 years in the business? What's really working for you today that stands out to you for anyone listening?
Well, I really see this business as helping people, getting them to the next chapter of their life. Um, we don't, a lot of people don't sell a lot of homes, or buy a lot. So it's something that isn't really done a lot by a person. So they don't really have that knowledge as we're constantly doing this. So having that ability and skill to help someone do this is really important. So, just again, going back to that rapport, very important.
Going back to rapport. Yeah. Say more about that. Like rapport, I think is super important for sure. I mean, you want to have that connection and know-how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's really who they're meeting with for maybe an hour. The owner of Shorewest isn't coming to your home. It's one of the agents, and that's the person that, you're going to have to be comfortable with for the next 30 to 60 days.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have a process that you like to go through to kind of build that rapport or establish that connection or,
Yeah.
uncover some of those questions with potential clients?
Yeah, just really kind of listening to their needs and focusing on, what they need to accomplish to get to that, again, getting to that next chapter of their life. I mean, I had the ability to kind of reflect on this and like, wow, what we really do is huge as realtors and brokers, getting people to that next chapter. And, everyone wants to move on and they're excited and they just want things to be smooth, no stress, no hassle. And that's one of the things that we provide.
Yeah. So just listening, really,
Yeah.
really being a good listener to what they need and what they want and what's important to them type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You probably hear the old, I'm a psychologist, but I also sell homes on the side, right?
Yeah.
Or therapist.
I like to say that I open doors for a living. I don't know.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. No pun intended.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, yeah. Yeah, no, I know a couple techniques that always worked well for me.
Mhm.
Were just, because I think creating that rapport and listening is so important, but a couple things that I learned at some point, I forget when, but one of the techniques is called they call it going 3 deep. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's kind of a 3 deep level of questioning. And so it's listening to their needs, but not just taking their first answer, right? So,
Exactly.
okay,
Yeah.
you're looking for a 4-bedroom house. Oh, okay,
Mhm.
great. What is it about a 4-bedroom house that's important to you? Okay, well, we want it because we have 3 kids. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So you have 3 kids. So second level deep would be, okay, so is school districts important to you, right? And
Yeah.
kind of uncovering and peeling back those layers of that onion, right? And
Yeah.
so kind of going, not just taking that first answer or first
Mhm.
question, and skipping over to the next thing. Okay, well, we're going to switch gears now,
Yeah.
but going deeper on one line of questioning. I think that's always been a technique that's worked well for me that I think
Yeah.
does help, develop that rapport, and also helps the potential client know that, hey, you're listening, you're paying attention, and it's
Yeah,
important to you. And so,
exactly.
so that's one technique I've used, multiple times. I still use it all the time as well. I mean, in fact, I might even be using it with you, right? Like,
Yeah.
tell me more about this
Yeah.
helping people concept, right?
Yeah.
But I think also, right, it's just trying to uncover a little bit more and
Yeah.
hear what is most important to them. Because I think if you do that, then you get at that heart of it. The other thing I've done several times is if you've ever gone to see, a therapist or psychologist or something, right? Oftentimes they will, right, regurgitate or mirror and match what they're hearing you say, right? And that's a technique I think a great sales agent or salesperson, realtor should do as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
you want to reflect back to the client, right? We call it mirror and match almost, right?
Yeah.
We want to mirror what we're hearing, reflect it back to them as a potential client. And then I think by doing that, it lets them know you're listening, you're paying attention to what is important to me and what I need. So,
Yeah.
so those are a couple techniques that I like to use as well. And I think that those, I've noticed great success with that, kind of those couple things of building that rapport and going a little
Yeah.
bit deeper. So,
Yeah.
but okay.
Well,
Anything else that stands out to you? Just me saying those things?
Yeah, you make a great point. Yeah. Pretty much if someone's saying, hey, I'm looking for a 4-bedroom, you're like, okay, we're going to look this. And maybe after a while you find out, well, maybe they don't need that, so you're right. A little bit of investigative work sometimes, because how people, they can tend not to open up that much in the beginning. And then after a while, that rapport comes in, and then they start, and then you find out, oh, wow, they really, you guys really want this instead. They're like, yeah, so yeah, a little bit of, like you said, the onion, peeling back the onion.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Okay. Well, so what about you? What's been a challenge? So after 23 years in this business, I'm sure you've encountered some challenges before. How do you, is there something that comes to mind, right? That, how do you deal with the challenges of the day, right? You get the bad inspection, the bad client, the whatever it is for you. Is there a story or an example that comes to mind of something that happened to you where maybe, it didn't go your way? It didn't go how you wanted. And what did you do?
Yeah, well, there's definitely challenges in this field. So, and without it, I don't think I'd be in it. So, sometimes being thrown in a fire makes you stronger. So, a lot of the issues is, commission, the basics, the commission, the length of contract, pricing. A lot of people are just so emotionally attached to their home. They really can't put a price on it because their heartstrings are attached too. So those are most of the challenges that I deal with, or trying to get for sale by owners, which I like to call for sale not on market, FSNOs instead of FSBOs, getting them to kind of realize that, hey, look, we're here to get you the best net at closing. We're not all about taking your money. It's about putting more of it in your pocket at closing. And that's what we're able to do compared to someone that's just trying to sell on their own.
Yeah. What did you say? FSNO?
Oh yeah. I'm starting a grassroots little thing. FSBO, for sale by owner. I'm changing to FSNO, for sale not on market. I think the confusion a lot of FSNOs have is that, hey, I just put it on Craig's or I put it on Marketplace. I'm on the market. You're not really on the market, as we know.
Sure.
You are losing out so much. All those real buyers. I mean, but it's hard to, sometimes you're really hard to get that nail driven into the board. Like, hey, look, you want the biggest net at closing, that's why we're here. So challenges with FSNOs, getting them to realize that, yeah, sure, there's a few maybe here and there that might sell, but did they sell for the most? We don't know because you weren't marketed to the most. So I'm sure they're excited to get that one offer for asking price. Well, just yesterday I got 2 offers at 25,000 over. So again, the net compared to, how much am I going to pay?
Yeah.
And feel free to use that FSNO.
Yeah, FSNO. I never heard that. That's an interesting acronym. I like, I think I like that approach too, because, there's some agents I know that are terrified, or they're
Yeah,
afraid of even approaching a for sale by owner, or
yeah,
for sale not on market, right? I
yeah,
mean, I think
yeah.
there's a fear that they're, I don't know, they hate agents, or they don't like
Yeah.
agents or whatever.
Bad
And I don't think
experience.
that's necessarily the case. I think
Yeah,
it's they just, yeah, they're trying to save a few bucks, and if they can do it themselves,
yeah,
great. Okay, no
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
And I think, the approach I've always used is like, because I've sold properties not on market, and I've sold them on the market, right? I've done everything, a lot of things in between over the last 20 years of my career. And I think one of the things I've noticed too about those, is, yeah, they're just looking to make an opportunity, go to that next phase, right?
Mm,
And so if you meet them where they're at, right?
mm,
And maybe it's about the money,
mm.
maybe it really is,
Yeah,
and maybe it's not. Maybe they just want to try it out for a
yeah,
couple weeks first, and
yeah,
then they'll list it with you or me or whoever, um and kind of go that path. But if they're just maybe testing out the market to see what it's like, I've encountered a number of times that's the issue there.
mm,
So but sometimes we think it's about commission, and you mentioned it too, right? That's a
mm.
roadblock that sometimes you hit.
Yeah,
And I don't want to go into specific numbers,
mm,
but like, this is this is out there for anybody to hear, and
mm.
we're not talking about what commissions should be, but I
Sure.
think,
Yeah, yeah.
if you're getting that commission objection of what you charge, how do you overcome that? What do
Yeah.
you say?
Yeah. Well, first off, being independent and working out of my house and not having all that overhead that big brokers have, the big box stores, I'm able to offer a much more affordable rate than the competition. And I think that it really has to come down to overhead, you know, as obviously you have a product you're selling and then you have a cost. So brokers or agents or independents that can keep those costs down can
Sure.
really pass that off to the consumer. Um, the problem is as you know, when people pay less, they feel, well, we're going to get less service or less marketing. But unfortunately, that's different in this case where I offer that low rate with that high quality. You'll get everything that you want, and at a price that you can afford or you're happy with. And then that way they tell their friends, family, and coworkers, and you created your whole referral system. So yeah, it really has to come down to the customer's personal experience too. As a broker owner, I can be flexible. You don't know, maybe they are having some issues financially, and you're there to just help them out, get to that next level. And hopefully they're going to tell their friends, family, and coworkers, and they hire you. So that flexibility that I can offer is huge compared to, I've heard so many times, my hands are tied, I can't do anything. Well, I can. You're dealing with the owner. I got skin in the game, and it's just, I'll make sure that you're taken care of, and you're going to work with me directly. And I've got all the risk in this company. So rather than just some agent who's going to be on here for a year and I'm going to leave, no, I need to make sure that quality is constantly, quality and service are constantly top notch.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, it's an interesting concept, right? I mean, right, if you're a smaller independent, right, you do have much more say and control in what you charge or what you offer or how you can offer that, right? I mean, if you are at a larger company, right, there's management and there's bigger offices, and that all costs money.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, they
so
got managers, they
somewhere
got
that
overhead.
dollar comes from somewhere,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so how does it show up and where does it come from? Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you choose to invest your resources somewhere, and either it's in your own independent company, or sometimes you invest part of your business dollars that with another brokerage, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business decision of how you want to invest that as an agent, right? Most of us are all independent contractors here. So
yeah, right.
that's interesting. I think, we've adopted a similar philosophy in terms of flexibility, and in the sense that, and again, I'm not speaking exacts about commission amounts. That's up to each broker and agent to decide what they want to charge. But we've certainly adopted more of a flexibility in terms of our approach, and tried to offer a variety of different options depending on the situation. So I think which I think is really at the grassroots of the lawsuit recently, right?
Yeah.
Of what changed with the
Yeah.
buyer brokerage, right? And it was
Yeah.
sort of that decoupling of, buyer broker compensation and the listing agent compensation, right? Taking those apart and just letting them stand on their own. And I think we'll continue to see more of that flexibility and changes and variability within the brokerage industry. I think that's my prediction anyway. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably what consumers are asking for, right? It's just more choices and more options, and we'll probably continue to see that. So no, that makes sense. Okay. What else? So the other thing that stood out to me, what is it? You're into bodybuilding and stuff. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just staying in shape, weightlifting. I used to compete 10, 15, 20 years ago. And that is a very dedicated sport in terms of the time you put in. It is, equal to the results you get. So as agents, the more time we put in, I think we get better results from it. So if you're going to stand around or sit around and wait for the phone to ring, that's just not very productive. That's like going to the weight room and sitting down and watch the dumbbells. I mean, instead of picking it up. So, so that dedication.
I'm in the gym. Does that count? Come on.
Yeah, that counts. You're there. You're halfway there.
I'm halfway there. I still have to lift them.
Well, I always say walking in the door is halfway there. Now what are you going to do with that other half? So
yeah.
But yeah, that dedication and the discipline is that, I think, when you can put that into your business, that just helps it expand and grow and flourish, and it just puts you on the right path to success.
Yeah, for sure. Did you notice? I mean, did that translate right away for you? Like, did you take that right into your career path, or how does that help? Do you still have a routine with that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Constantly, the discipline and routine, and I know people like routine, but sometimes you need that, to keep the train rolling.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important. I mean, I wasn't into bodybuilding, but I was always into sports, and I was a wrestler all through high school, and I wrestled 3 years in college. And I think I take, maybe that similar mindset coming into this business, right? Sometimes it's like, I'm not wrestling my clients per se, but I'm wrestling with myself, right? And then I think creating that cadence of daily practice and refinement and routine, and how do you get in that habit of every single day, right? Like, I need to be reaching out to people and calling and texting and emailing and checking on properties, and that needs to be not once in a while, right? It's not like you go to the gym once in a while and you're in shape. You got to do it every day, or at least a couple times a week, right? Like, it's at a minimum, you got to have a standard to maintain good physique and stay in shape for a sport, or also it's no different in this business, right? Like, we've created those rituals and systems and routines to stay on top of your game in this business, and to me, and really it's a people business, right? And it's about reaching out to people and connecting with people, and how do you stay in touch with them and reconnect with more people. I think that's going to help you for sure. So
in that, when I was competing for contests, I mean, it's not, you just don't go to the gym for an hour. It's 24/7. Are you getting 8 hours of sleep, every meal? I mean, it is just 3 months of 24-hour work. And I don't think a lot of people see that. And I don't think a lot of people see what agents do. It's really 24/7. When I get up is when I start, and when I go to bed is when I'm done. So it is a lifestyle. It's just like bodybuilding is a lifestyle. You can't go lift weights for an hour and then go eat McDonald's for 6 hours later. It is a lifestyle, along with being a professional realtor or broker. You really got to put in the time and effort and discipline if you want those results, and if you want to see customers and clients calling you back and 5-star reviews. So
Yep, for sure. No, I think you hit the nail on the head there, right? Like, we got to keep at it every single day, and away we go. I mean, it takes that dedication, it takes that discipline to succeed. I think especially those first couple of years in the business, I know those were probably the hardest for me, right? First couple of years in the business, and second guessing my own self-confidence. Like, is this really for me? Do I really want to do it? And to me, I mean, it was like similar in my wrestling career, right? Like, when I first started, I wasn't that good, but like, guess what? You learn and you go to practice and you get better and better. And then guess what? By year 3, 4, and 5, now you're really starting to see that momentum. So, for anybody that's maybe in that 1 to 2 year time frame, to me, that's, if you haven't achieved success yet, and you're, sometimes you just got to keep the pedal down and keep going and keep going after it. So.
Yeah, as long as you're laying that foundation, it might take longer than some other people. Some people start and they've got clients right off the bat. Some take a little bit more time. But if you're as long as you're moving forward every day, that's really what matters. Yeah,
for sure. Well, cool. Well, Lance, I appreciate what we've talked about so far.
Right.
I mean, we're definitely, getting a good company in line, and having a good routine, and listening to people, helping people. I mean, we've touched on a lot of good things. What anything else on your mind that you think our listeners might find beneficial or valuable before we sign off for today?
I think it is very important when a seller is looking to list with an agent for their home, because I think a lot of sellers just kind of go off maybe referrals or family members or something like that. But, definitely interview. And I know for me to say interview 3 to 5 agents is, am I cutting my own throat? No, I mean, you might, need that to feel comfortable with someone. So, on that point, don't be hesitant or afraid to ask your agent, hey, this is what we need. Because we're in the business of listening, and making sure that, all their needs are taken care of, and that at the end of the day, they're happy, right? That's the main thing. Nobody wants to sell a home or buy a home and, be crying at the closing. So definitely we want to see happy people at our closing tables. And that's what we strive to do. Yeah,
for sure. Yep. So interviewing a couple different agents sometimes, can be hard, but if at the end of the day, that's sometimes what's needed for the best outcome. I think you also touched on something that I heard, is that people want to feel comfortable, right? Yeah. So if you're on a listing appointment and you're out there and you're just like, your words are not letting them feel comfortable, and you're feeling like you're in conflict with the potential client or seller, like something ain't right. Either you got to change your approach, or maybe they're not the right client for you or something. But like, it's getting that level of comfort and confidence, it's a two-way street, and whatever you can do to kind of, meet people where they are and let them feel comfortable. I think that's what's going to lead to better outcomes and more success for sure. So,
and I'm sure, starting out, just like as myself, we are on listing appointments. We're super nervous. We've got a list of, we have a script and everything. I don't, after, almost 23 years, I don't script anything. I just go there. I really enjoy meeting new people, listening, and having that knowledge and experience to answer questions just like that. That's what gives people comfort. So I'm probably, you're probably just like me. We have a listing appointment. We just go. We don't need to sit in the car and like, okay, I got to do this, and this. We're professionals. We're ready for every question. It's rare that I get a question that I have to be like, weird. Let me get back to you. Having the more questions you can ask, the more comfortable they are at that listing appointment, and more often they're gonna hire you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it comes with experience. It comes with practice, right? Yeah. Like if you haven't been on a lot of listing appointments, guess what? You better be practicing with somebody that's got more experience than you.
And do like a ride along, right? Anything to benefit, your experience in this field.
Yeah, for sure. There's nothing that can help you more in your career than more practice and more appointments and more experience, right? So
exactly.
Like if you can go with other agents maybe that have more business, right? If you're not quite there or not quite achieving and not getting as many listing appointments, just go with some other agents. You'll see and learn from them. And a lot of times agents handle it differently too, right? What you might say is maybe different than what I might say, and what may be different than another agent says. And so I think sometimes you get a different approach and a different way of handling it. Doesn't mean one is necessarily better than the other, but I think you find your groove when you've gone on enough listing appointments or buyer appointments, and you can either yeah, there's no question that you haven't heard before, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get a question about the commission or the contract or staging or whatever, right? Like it
Yeah.
always comes up. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, here we go. So like,
Yeah.
let's plan for that. And if you haven't been on that many appointments, it takes some time to practice those.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. Well, cool. Well, Lance, I really appreciate you coming on our show today and dropping
Thanks for
some of your
having me.
insight and knowledge with our listeners and yeah, sharing your wisdom with us. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. All right. Well, that's our show for today. So again, you're listening to the Better Agent Podcast. I'm Josh Lavik and Lance Nowak. We're agents in Wisconsin and can help you out. But if you're an agent listening and you want to further this conversation, tune in next time, and we'll definitely be talking more about how to improve your real estate business and hear from other experts in the field that are doing it at a high level. So appreciate you coming on the show again, Lance.
Thank you.
Again, Josh Lavik signing off. Here's our episode for today.
Thanks for tuning in to the Better Agent Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned for more tips, Q&A sessions, and sneak peeks into our 21-day challenge. To get full access of our show notes and more details on the 21-day challenge, go to abetterrealestateexperience.com. Keep striving for greatness, and I'll see you on the next episode.